Okay, can you just confirm if you can share, see my screen?
Yes, the screen is visible. It's fine now.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So for today, we will be talking about the journey with open source. So we'll go through a lot of things. So just let's get started. So here is the agenda for today. We'll be giving a brief introduction of what we are going to talk about. Then we'll talk about what is open source, what is the application process, what are the various other programs we can try with, and how, as a beginner, you should start your journey, like why and how you should start. And I'll talk about my experience with Google Summer of Code, which was recently, and some tips and guides. So before starting, just a bit about me. So my name is Shivangi, and I'm an open source enthusiast. I'm also an Android developer, and right now I'm dealing with Android security as well. So I have been part of a lot of open source programs, including Google Summer of Code, Google Coden, and MLH Fellowship as well. Also, I've mentored a few other programs. So, yeah. What is open source? I know everyone here will be, you have heard a little bit of, be familiar about it, but just to make it obvious, because we are going to talk about journey to open source. So open source is nothing, just to say layman language, it can be said to be as the code that is available out there, like something which is free and anyone can use it, see it, modify it, distribute, and it is there for free. Like you can just open it and use it. So the most famous open source programs that we find is like the Linux operating system that we use, the Python language, and the Android itself is the open source. And there are many to add. So next is the version control system. So it is a category of software tools that basically help in maintaining the source code that you have. And because this code lives, like it is there for years, this is really important that we have a version control system, because that's how you maintain large code bases over a long period of time. So the example is the most common one being Git, and other are like Mercurial, Monotone, SVN, which is the Apache, it is a subversion of Apache. Next is GitHub and GitLab. So we all have heard about it, and it's just a hosting platform for version control. So there are many, but GitHub and GitLab are the most preferred ones, and there are other good ones also like Clean and Buddy, but rarely people use it. So yeah. So why open source? Why do we say that, okay, we should be knowing open source software, or why we should learn open source? So I would say, trust me, it is a boom. Like everyone is running behind it. Organizations are making their source open code open source. Like there's a hype going around. But what is it there for you? Like as a student, why should you learn it? Why you should start with it? So I would say that open source is not just about code. Of course, it is about code, but it's not just about code. It is a lot more than code. Like there's a lot of learning, exposure, networking, and opportunities related to it. So let's start one by one. So learning. So when it comes to learning, open source is one way where you learn to how to write a clean code. Like code can be written one, but when it comes to writing clean code and code that is understandable by anyone, irrespective of you, that is when open source is really playing a huge role. Next is working in large code bases. Like you get to work on thousands of lines of code which are being added or deleted by someone else, and you need to make sense out of those lines of code. Next is how to, like it tells you how, like you need to sharpen your skills, because every time you go through a code, you may or may not be knowing about it. So every time you go through it, you will get to learn a lot of new other things, and you get to sharpen your skills. Next is the exposure. When you work on these open source projects, you work on real life problems. It's basically like something that you're going to when you go when you're going to work in companies, firms, or startups. So open source is a good way to get started with the future, your timeline which you're going to have. Also, I have seen a lot of people have started, showing up their open source work on their resumes. They keep it before, like it's the most preferred ones now on the resume. And a lot of companies, when they come for hiring, they do see if you have any extra work that you have done, because when you keep something in from GitHub, like from open source on your resume, it is a direct practical work that you have done. So you need not to prove it because it's already proved. The lines of code you have already written. You just like the person just need to click on it and he's all there and can see what you have done. Next is the networking. So let's say you have a code and you are working on it. So many times a lot of people come together, they work on it, they share their ideas, how to improve it, what not to do, what to do. So this is how you improve your networking. You share your ideas, you discuss, and this is how you keep improving. And opportunities, of course, open source is a boom and a lot of opportunities are coming up. You get to collaborate with big projects, with big people, and you build something great which can be used by the society. You actually work on real life problems. So there is a lot of opportunities available out there. But there are a lot of programs. But today in specific, I'll be talking about Google Summer of Code. So Google Summer of Code, it's basically a 3-month program where you work on a project under some org. And it's basically 3 months, so it will be like June to September. And there's 1 month of collaboration where you collaborate with your org. So you see this 1 month is given to you to collaborate. So this is a big impact where when you start collaborating with people and you're given 1 month to do that. So so this Google Summer of Code is one of the most important programs, and it runs globally. So now I'll a lot of people ask questions. So now I'll follow up on the most common and the most curating process that students have doubts on. And so I'll try to cover them here one by one. So there are main 3 stages when you aim for getting Google Summer of Code. So let's start with the initial. Okay, so the first question, of course, how to start. So you need to know a programming language, of course. You should have basics in your hand. You need not to know you shouldn't be an expert to contribute, I would say. Just the basic knowledge will help you a lot. And your basics should be clear, of course. So once you have a programming language in hand, you are all set to contribute to open source. Next is of course, a few other things are there which you need to keep in mind. So you should know your tech stack. So this tech stack is really important. And this tech stack should be chosen something which interests you. Like say you're interested in Android or web development or say machine learning, Docker, Kubernetes, containers. It should be something which really interests you, because you can't drag things at the end of the day. So it should be something which is really helpful, and you should know your tech stack. Next is choosing the project, which is the best fit. So as I said, it should be some project that interests you. And it should derive you. You should be excited to work on, and every day you get up, you should be like, okay, I have to work on it. And these lines of code, I'll get it and I'll understand them. So initially it will be maybe a bit tough because, working in the starting as a beginner on thousands of lines of code and understanding where to find what may be a bit tough, but that if you have that zeal to work on it, you will get it. So first, also find the best fit for your project, like the project that fits you well. Next, you should be thorough with your version control. You should know the basic commands, how to push, pull, commit on something. And it is very important because when you work on a community, you will have a lot of people there. So you can't just simply go and spam over there because it's a standard platform. So you should be thorough with your version control practices. And next is to connect with communities. So there are a lot of communities. When you go about, you have platforms where the social media platforms like Gitter, Slack, mailing list, where you find a lot of developers where you can collaborate with. So you can join these mailing lists or these channels where you meet a lot of developers. So say my community, like NEFOS, where I got into the program. So they used Gitter and Slack. So I joined that for collaborating with them. Next is zeal to learn. Of course, this is the most important. It is not possible that you know everything. Of course, when you start, you have to learn. And this is when the main process begins. And of course, this is how the learning process works, because when we are born, we don't know anything, but we do learn things, and this is how we build up our skill set. So you learn, and you should know what you need to learn. Like, you can't just learn the whole whole domain and then jump into something. That's not possible anytime, because these domains are really vast, and you should be selective. So say you want to learn something, you should know what you have to learn from that stuff. You can't learn everything. So be selective when you learn and build your skills like that. Next is choosing a project. So when it comes to choosing a project and going for Google Summer of Code, people have a lot of questions, because there are hundreds of organizations which have like many projects inside them. So how do you go for it? So there is this Google Summer of Code website. If you just give a Google search, simply like Google Summer of Code homepage, you'll see a first link that comes up. Just click on it, and you will see a drop-down list of projects and organizations. So when you click on those organizations, you will be able to see their projects. So so you just need to go there, search for it. And I would say this is not for only person who is going to do Google Summer of Code. Any person who's interested into contributing to open source can go there and look for projects, because every community which has good projects, they're of course there. So you can just go and try out your hand, try out your skills, how to contribute to open source. So it is a really good way where you can look for projects. So while choosing a project, as I said, find your interest, be ready to spend time. You can't just open it and like in 2 to 3 days, you will think that, okay, I'm going to work on it. Like, you have to spend 2 to 3 weeks understanding the code base if you're really looking forward to contribute to it on long-term basis. Ask. This is a very big thing. People do say it's easy, but what I think is not many people do that. So you should ask people. Like, if you have having any problem, you should be free to ask. Like, you shouldn't think that, okay, this might be a bad question to ask. You should just ask, because the communities are there to help you. They're not just to judge you there. So you need to ask. And if you don't ask, you will be stuck. And that's of no use, of course. Next is try the project as an end user. So say, like, I'm an Android developer. So whenever I see for a project, so of course, code base is one thing, but you can't get the whole, like how it works, how it looks like just from the code. There will be screenshot, like the mockups and stuff, but it's better if you try it. Like, just go through the website or something and just try it how it looks. Use it as if you are using it, like an end user, and then start collaborating or working on it. If you find that useful or interesting or something like really that took up your eyes, then start working on it, because that will make you improve that project very well. Yeah, so dealing with large code bases, as I told, there will be thousands of lines. Like, you as a beginner, when you work on like hundreds of lines and then directly jumping to thousands of lines is not an easy task. Yeah, so first of all, have a learning approach. Learn, like, if you don't know something, just Google it, learn by yourself, or ask for help from someone whom you think can help you. Next is refer to the resources available related to the projects and give enough time. So, like, say you want to work on a project. So there will be, of course, a project can be new, which is like really rare. But do projects exist for years? Like, one project will be running from 5 to 6 years. So what you can do is just simply go to that project, search the past, say, GSoC who worked on it, or some documents that is provided from the organization itself. So just do it, just go through them. There will be for sure videos or showcase of work done by them. Go through it, learn it, what they did, and then try to just like learn how they did it or what is the approach they tried for. And like, of course, get in touch with the community, because when you get in touch with the person who's mentoring the project, he will know how to guide a beginner. So that will be a really great help for you. Next is the application process. So, okay, so once you are set with your initial steps, you have chosen a project, you have chosen an org, like you have chosen an org and then a project. So of course that's good. Okay, so I forgot one thing to mention. So of course there are two approaches you can go with. One is you choose a project and then you choose an org, or you can choose an org and then choose a project. Okay, maybe I'm confusing. So I'll just start one by one. So say you chose an org, and then suppose you chose, some org which has your tech stack. Then it's really easy to see projects that interest you. Like you just need to do that, or else you can go the other way around where you choose project and then you see for org. So I basically prefer the other way around, which is I choose a project which interests me, and then I see the org, because at the end of the day, it's just your project which you have to work on. Orgs are basically, all of them are good. They're excellent to work with. So that shouldn't be a matter somewhere. Yeah, so now talking about the application process. So this is the most important and the deciding phase when you go for GSoC. And I would say a lot of students who aim for GSoC, they mostly make like bad decisions, or they lag in this process itself. So when you go for application process, so every org asks for a proposal, of course. Like you need to submit a proposal. And so after that, there will be interview rounds. So some orgs do ask for interview rounds. Like in my org, there were 2 interview rounds after they accept your proposal. And these interview rounds are basically just for testing and accessing your skills and your, like what you wrote in your proposal, just to know that, okay, you are true to yourself. That's it. Yeah. Okay. So these are some of the most important things I would say when you write a proposal. So be clear and precise. So you just can't blabber out stuff when you are writing a code, your proposal. You should be really concise and clear what you mean when you write a proposal. Try to use mockups. So say you are suggesting something, some feature to be added to their project. So just add a mockup. So maybe, you can just you can just give a mockup, or you can implement it if you have time and then give a screenshot of that thing. So that's very rare and that's very like high stuff, but it's fine if you give a mockup just to give an idea of what you want and what you think of doing in it. Then application template. So of course, when you go for applying, a lot of organizations do provide what they want as a template. Like they do provide an application template. So it's very easy to just follow on that and write your things. But so you can ask some previous GSoC or some contributor for it, or you can just directly mail the admin or the org, someone in the org. That is pretty easy. But try that you find it by yourself. It's pretty easy to find it. And it's really good that you follow the application template. So most of the orgs, they ask for 2 pages or 3 pages. And there are orgs which just want a proposal of 1 page. So you need to be really clear and precise at the same time. So next is mention a standard timeline. So, okay, so so this is basically like, it will ask you that, okay, once you're selected, you need to give a timeline. So it is like, say, like I'm going to do this. So you can't just write a lot of stuff and do nothing when you start with it. So you need to really think, okay, if I'm get selected, say I have 30 days, how I'm going to divide my time, what all I'm going to do. So you need to be really accurate in it, because once you're selected, you need to follow it very precisely. Like they're going to evaluate you on that basis. Next is the contact the community. So this is important. Just join their community channels, be active there, talk to people, introduce yourself, like get in touch with as many people as you want, so that they can start recognizing, okay, this is someone who is aiming to get into GSoC, and they'll help you in that way if you need help. Okay, so when to start? Okay, so there's no specific timeline. You can just start anytime you want, but this is some important days that, so you can your screen to start of March. So it basically comes at night, so you can see it. And then you have time, like from like 1.5 months, you have time. So you can start it. And after that, once you are done with your proposal, the next step will be, you're all set. You just did some, did some good work, and you just need to pat your back because now your application is submitted. And if you have your interviews coming up, you need to prepare for it, give them. And now it's like you're all set, and you have to just wait till what date? 14th of May. Yeah, you just need to wait till 17th of May for a result, and you just need to rest now. Or if you want, you can like go through the code, keep going through the code base, contribute if you want, and just be in touch with the org some way or the other. Okay, so talking about my experience and how I started my journey in open source. So basically, I was part of the Google Summer of Code 2020 with MeFOS. So I worked on a fintech application, which is a simple basic, like a basic banking application, you can say, which is used for the poor and unbanked in Africa. So so going a bit into flashback, I started my open source journey during my first year when I joined an open source club named AMFOS in my college. So this is when I started coding. And so back in school days, I never had any coding experience. I started coding after joining this club. So I learned Java. And once after I learned Java, I started contributing to open source because I thought this is something I should really do. Like it really attracted me to do it. So the first place where I contributed was Hacktober Fest. And then I contributed for KWalk. And then, of course, at the same time, I was aiming for Google Summer of Code as well. So I followed the things. I started contributing. I submitted my application. And I gave interviews also, like for the same org, MeFOS. But I couldn't get selected during my first year. But it really taught me a lot. Like it taught me where I made mistakes, what to be improved, what should I do, and what should I not do again. So I just made up and I jotted down all the things that I did and which were wrong. So this year again I applied and I got selected for the same org. And I successfully completed the program this year in September. So as I told, my project was basically about financing services to unbanked. So I worked on adding features like themes and Rocket Chat for real-time like conversations, payment hub to allow transactions and transfers, redesigning the UI. So all this is what I did this year. So I would say it was a great experience. I learned a lot. And I would say these 3 months, I learned a lot, which I would have not learned in like many months. So it's like a moving pace. Once you start, you will keep learning. And when it ends, okay, you will be like, this is a lot I learned. And you will really, it will be inspiring for yourself. So of course, there are some other perks that you get. So you get to collaborate with a lot of people. Since it is a global program, you collaborated with people in foreign countries that you get to know about them, how they work, what the technologies they use, and many other things. Like since I'm an Android student, like I don't know about technologies, but when I worked on this project, I get to know a lot more things. And of course, there's a stipend, which is a really good amount to have. Yeah, so now the tips and guides. So I would like to share the tips and guide that I followed after getting rejected during my first year. And I think it will surely going to help you a lot because it helped me as well. So the first thing is, the more time you spend, the more comfortable you are going to be. Like you can start early or you can start late. It's up to you. But if you spend time and you're comfortable with the code base, that is really going to help you. Second is the application template. So my organization also had an application template. I followed it. I was precise with it. It's really tough to put out at the same time, be precise on the application template that they give. And it's really standard. So you just cover up everything that the organization need to know about you. So you should always follow that if it's available. Else you just go through templates that other orgs provide, and make a standard one if possible. Next is the contributions. So you should start contributing to the project so that you get an idea of what the code base is. If you start contributing, you will go through lines of code. You will see what the code is, because when it comes to seeing and doing practical work, those two things are really different. When you do practical work more, you'll get to understand more. So do the contributions and be consistent if possible. Be active on community channels. So when during GSoC, you will see from March, when the proposal begins, like submissions begin, the organizations are announced, a lot of people join in, they ask for help, how to start, where to start. So since if you are there and you have already started or you're going to start, just be active on the community channels. You can ask, you can tell, you can share, collaborate, like everything is possible. But just be active, join their channels. And also, of course, you'll get the updates also, which is coming up, like the new projects if they are planning for. A lot of orgs, they do tell about the projects that they're going to have for the coming years and something like that. Follow the standard rules of FOSS. So yeah, just be standard. Don't spam onto the platforms that they have, like be it the community channels where like the mailing list or Gitter channel or even the GitHub or the GitLab platform. Just don't spam it because it creates a bad impression. Also, if you're a beginner and you want to start, just try out things on some other project, but just don't go to the main project and do that. It just creates a sort of bit, a bad impression. You need to be really standard when you ask for questions. You just don't go and simply ask as you ask your friend. You should be standard when you ask questions. Next is every contribution counts. Yeah, so see, every contribution does have an effect when you go for contributing. It's nothing like, okay, since I'm made, this is a small change or this is a big change, this is just one line. It doesn't, because every contribution has an impact. It shows that, okay, you are willing to work on the project. So start contributing, start with small, then go to big. You don't jump into big directly. That's what I would say. Yeah, so that's it from my side. And I hope it was helpful for you all. So we can always be connected through Twitter or LinkedIn. You can always ping me if you want help in any way. I would really love to do that. And thank you to the organizing team for having me here. It was really great. And I was, of course, excited for this. So thank you, everyone.